No. Thank you, goodness, thank you. Okay, text 12. Yesterday was 10, 9, 11. 10, 9, 12. Is it on the screen? Yes? Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shakpayashtim Sutam Pitam Vigyayar Bhakavatsala Yesha Kilatam Badham Dhamna Tadvirya Kovidam Chaktvayashtim Sutam Bhitam Vigyayar Bhakavatsala Yesha Kilatam Badhum Dhamna Tadvirya Kovida. Mother Yashoda was always overwhelmed by intense love for Krishna, not knowing who Krishna was or how powerful he was. Because of maternal affection for Krishna, she never even cared to know who he was. Therefore, when she saw that her son had become excessively afraid, she threw the stick away and desired to bind him so that he would not commit any further naughty activities. Purport: Mother Yashoda wanted to bind Krishna not in order to chastise him, but because she thought that the child was so restless that he might leave the house in fear. That would be another disturbance. Therefore, because of full affection, to stop Krishna from leaving the house, she wanted to bind him with rope. Mother Yashoda wanted to impress upon Krishna that since he was afraid merely to see her stick, he should not perform such disturbing activities as breaking the container of yogurt and butter and distributing its contents to the monkeys. Mother Yashoda did not care to understand who Krishna was and how his power spreads everywhere. This is an example of pure love for Krishna. Now, we mentioned yesterday that the previous chapter was Krishna showing his universal form. Eating dirt. I didn't eat dirt. It's your brother and your friends. They're liars. I didn't eat dirt. Let me look in your mouth. And she saw what she saw. And then she thought, I'm seeing things. Because she couldn't accept that he's who he is. And she wasn't really so interested in, as this emphasis is, in knowing who he is. She just wanted to know whether he ate dirt or not. So what she saw was, she didn't understand what she saw. And she forgot it. Now, sometimes when we see something quite mysterious, we don't forget it, but she, by the influence of Krishna's Yogamaya potency, she forgot, so that the loving pastimes could continue, and the loving pastimes are continuing. Now, a couple more points. Here, the BBT commentators, that's Srila Prabhupada's disciples, isn't it? Yes? Beginning with chapter 9, because chapter 8 was 12. There's an emphasis, and sometimes there's another emphasis, and sometimes there's another emphasis. Here the emphasis is she didn't want to discipline him. She only wanted him to not run away and cause another disturbance. That's the emphasis. However, many of you have heard, I've certainly heard, there's other emphases and other emphases, and that's quite okay. So the other, a primary other emphasis was, she thought, I don't mind, Nanda Maharaj has so many cows and so many dairy products, and I don't mind that he likes dairy products and he breaks the butter pot and eats the contents of the yogurt and the butter. I don't mind. But what I do mind is stealing. And I have to discipline him. So this is saying the contrary. Mother Yasoda wanted to bind Krishna not in order to chastise him. And then further commentary in this other line says, that was a common practice. You know, in modern times it would be child abuse. Tie your child to something around the waist with a rope and you're in jail. Or at least you got a court case against you because it's child abuse. The Mother Yasoda is not a child abuser. She's a mother that loves Krishna and she has her mode of love. And it was a common practice, and so maybe common practices in those days today would be considered child abuse. But it was just a standard practice to discipline. Now, the two don't conflict. The restlessness causing further there's a rule that says, this is just stepping back from this particular situation, but it's not uncommon, or one might say it's quite common, that one commentator and another commentator and another commentator may and do and will say or write different things about the same thing. And a less experienced devotee might say, wait a minute, if it's this, then how can it be that? And if it's that, then how can this be so? Because they seem in conflict. It's not she wants to discipline him, and then another is saying she wanted to discipline him. How do you process that? You're a nice devotee, you want to understand Krishna. That's good. And is it this or is it that? Or you want to understand the loving devotees of Krishna and how their love for Krishna is manifest. And is it this or that? You know what I'm talking about. So how do we handle those situations? So there's a few factors. And one of those few factors is this person who's making the commentary coming from disciplic succession? And are the commentaries from that root of disciplic succession? I mean, from the evening class, the Madhvacharya topic. Madhvacharya's teachings in many cases are identical, and in some cases are quite distinct. And it's the same sampradaya. So if it's this, how can it be that? And if it's that, how can it be this? Or there's other examples and other examples. A classic example that's pointed out by different devotees. Did I mention this? The difference between Baladev Vidyabhusan and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary in chapter 1 Bhagavad Gita. Did I mention this the other day? Yes? Yes? Yes. Okay. What's Baladev Vidyabhusan doing? Is he uppity? Is he one-upping his Shiksha Guru, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, saying the opposite? What's going on? How do we process that? It's another thing. And if it's this, then it's not that. If it's that, it's not this, because they're diametrically opposite. Is it okay? It's certainly okay. So how do we process it? And the realization of different acharyas is something that enters their heart. No, if you're not an acharya, then be very careful. It's not just academic scholarship and you take this means that. That's a no-no. We don't recognize that kind of thing. However, when one of the rules is in Sanskrit meanings, we heard it, didn't we? Madhvacharya said, for every verse in Mahabharata, there's 10 meanings, and every name in Vishnu Sahasranam, there's 100 meanings. So if it's this, then how can it be that? The principle is you follow rules of Sanskrit. So Vyakarana, or the rules of Sanskrit, are very important because there has to be alignment with the rules of Sanskrit, even if there's some realization. So the realization can be dismissed if it doesn't align with. So there are different ways of reading Sanskrit. It's okay because as long as it conforms with the rules of Sanskrit. And then poetic Vaishnavas, they relish contemplating various meanings of verses and words within the verse based upon, that which stimulates love for Krishna. That when provided those rules are followed, the rules of Sanskrit grammar are followed, then it's nice, it's very sweet, it's very pleasing. Relishing topics of Krishna sometimes are like that. This possible, that possible, another possible meaning. And scholarship is not the essence, but you don't trash scholarship. It has to, there's rules, and we follow because there's rules. So I'm just now back to this incident. Was Mother Yasoda only binding Krishna because she wasn't interested to discipline? She was only interested in keeping him from further running away, and because he was afraid and causing another disturbance, so she wanted him to not create another disturbance. Sounds like selfish. And that's not Mother Yasoda. But, having, in parenting, having a child understand, please be careful, don't make a disturbance. Some children can't understand that. They do what they want to do. So some restraint may have to be applied by a parent to the child that's unaware of how they're creating disturbance. That's parenting and training. These are just social comments. The higher thing is her love. I mean, this pastime is honored especially because it's the love of Mother Yasoda that bound Krishna, not the ropes that bound Krishna. We discussed this a little bit yesterday. Krishna yielded to Mother Yasoda's wanting to bind him, not because she's big and I'm small and so she's going to bind me and that's okay because she's big and I'm small, but out of her love. So then we can take a look at what is love and what are we to learn from that, not only as parents, but as wanting to come to the position of love for Krishna. Sometimes it happens that devotees they want to be in devotion to Krishna. They understand ABC. Devotion to Krishna means I'm the subject, he's the object, he's meant to be served. Conceptually, we get it. However, at a deeper level, we may not get it. That is to say, I do this, and I have an expectation. It can be general, or it can be specific. And if that order supplier Krishna doesn't take care of my order, then there's something wrong with Krishna. Or there's something wrong with my relationship with Krishna. Krishna's not behaving the way that I have an expectation for him to behave, because he's kind and he's merciful, and I'm a nice devotee. He's trying to be a nice devotee, so Krishna should reciprocate. Anyway, Krishna is not our order supplier. It's a fundamental deeper level assimilation of bhakti, in that Krishna is to be pleased. And when that mood of Krishna is to be pleased becomes awakened, something happens. And something that happens is there are truths about Krishna that one then becomes eligible to understand, and even truths about oneself that one then becomes eligible to understand. We'll say it negatively. If that doesn't go beyond, the concept, and one still has one's requisition slip list, and Krishna's got a big warehouse and I expect him to supply my requisition slip. Please. Thank you. And that conception has to be cleared. So in the Leela, she saw that the stick he was looking at the stick and crying. So she threw away the stick. That's the first line of the Sanskrit. She threw the stick away. Sometimes people don't use a stick, they just use their finger. It's a little stick. And when it's done lovingly, it's good. It's not only okay, it's good. One should be cautious. Not I'm big, you're small. I'm right, you're wrong. So let me teach you some lessons. So that mood is not a loving mood. It can be a loving mood, but generally speaking, it's not. It's I'm big, you're small. Listen up. I mean, it's in practical life, as a parent, how do you, for example, or a more experienced devotee, younger devotee, and somebody is like missing the mark. So what do you do? It depends on the relationship, but sometimes instructions are needed. How do you give instructions when instructions are needed? And the relationship is very clearly, like parent and child, that's one. But, one devotee, another devotee, and it's not just seniority of how many years I've been chanting, but it's other criterion. It's quality and qualification, and when sometimes it's appropriate. So how do you give instruction when the circumstance is appropriate? I just, the preface, when the circumstance is appropriate, because of the other person acknowledges that they look up to you, and you acknowledge that they're looking up to you, and you see something, then how do you say something in a way that doesn't become misunderstood and create resentment or something? You get a pushback, or it get ignored or something. So these social circumstances are good lessons. The Bhagavatam is certainly giving us good lessons. This is a nice example. So the stick wasn't the right method. She threw it away because it was causing Krishna to cry. And then further, according to this purport, further ramifications. If Krishna started to cry and feeling fearful, he might run away, and we might lose the relationship with somebody that we care about, or damage the relationship with our children or others who are the kind of subordinate category, less advanced category. So we have to be very careful. The relationship is more important than doing something or not doing something. The relationship is highly important. In the course of the Leela, Krishna didn't get it. He didn't want to be bound. Not because he was fearful and she might do some more damage to him than the stick would do, but he had another desire. His desire, according to the Acharyas, he wanted to go back to where the butter and yogurt was and feed the monkeys. He was having fun. And children like to have fun, and there are different ideas of what fun is. I mean, I'm not a parent, but I've seen parents, and a child is doing something that's disturbing. So they try to check the child, and as soon as they take their hand away, the child is doing the same thing, doing the same thing, doing the same thing, doing the same thing. Because it's not necessarily defiance, it's just they have a desire that looks like happiness to them, and so they keep doing. Now, what do you do when that happens? It depends what you do. Not a cookie cutter answer to a question like that. However, the main principle of discipline is love. So if that's not compromised, then you have more freedom in what you might do or not do, what you might say, not say. However, that's the most important principle, and don't compromise it in your dealings with devotees or dealings with dependents of one kind or another kind. I tell a little Prabhupada story. I saw Prabhupada discipline someone. And it was in a room full of devotees. Here was the situation. Henry Street, Brooklyn, at that time, there was no BBT, it was ISKCON Press. Later, the ISKCON Press shifted to Los Angeles because there was more space, etc., etc. And then it became BBT, because that was where BBT was formed, was in Los Angeles. So in New York, it was ISKCON Press. And Prabhupada came once a year. And one of the things that happened when Prabhupada came is the artists who were giving their life to Prabhupada had the opportunity to bring their paintings from where their art studios were, which was a few blocks away, And, when there wasn't rain, they brought the paintings to the temple and then into Prabhupada's quarters and showed Prabhupada the paintings. And it was a loving exchange. Because this was modern language was their work product, but the display of their love for our founder Acharya on display before him, in one painting after the next painting after the next painting. So I was in the room because at that time I was a temple commander, and so they needed some help. So I carried one of the paintings into Prabhupada's quarters. So there we are, maybe 15 artists, their lives dedicated to Prabhupada and their artwork being shown to Prabhupada. And, very elevated devotees, many of them very, very advanced devotees, very scripturally advanced and spiritually advanced, one by one. One particular painting I remember that was shown to Prabhupada was first canto painting of Maharaj Yudhisthira after Krishna's departure, heading for the Himalayas. He left his duty as king after turning the kingdom over to his grandson, Maharaj Parikshit. So you're familiar with that first canto scene. And the painting showed Maharaj Yudhisthira carrying Tridanda, heading to the mountains. He was in the mountains in the background. And Prabhupada explained, the one who is a Kshatriya does not take Tridanda. They may leave and become renunciate, but the sannyas is given to a Brahmana, not to a Kshatriya. Then he said, it's okay, you can leave it. And that's what they did. It's still in the BBT first canto paintings. I mean, he could have said, paint over the danda and just leave the background instead of, but he didn't say that. So, anyway, he was making comments, the oohs and the ahs and, the devotees feeling Prabhupada's love. So, during this particular exchange, I was seated right there. There's the corner of Prabhupada's desk. And I noticed, because I didn't know otherwise, right on this corner of his desk, there was a little buzzer. Just like a little mound and then a button. And what it was for was he would ring the bell, which would ring on the other side over where his servant was, because traveling with Prabhupada was a secretary who was a GBC person in rotation. And then there's a servant that took care of his stuff, everyday stuff. So he rang the bell. We couldn't hear the bell, but right in the midst of this joyful, celebratory, loving exchange dynamic thing going on, he called his personal servant. I'm not going to mention his name, but as the devotee paid his obeisances, coming in the midst of everybody else, Prabhupada interrupted the mood, and I don't even remember what he said, because it was like thunder. I kind of blanked out. And he raised his voice. And the devotee paid obeisances and left the room. He had done something wrong, and Prabhupada wanted him to do it right instead of wrong. And it was heavy. And then as soon as that devotee left, the mood went back to the other mood. And because we was like whiplash. And joyful, 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 loving exchange. So I found out later what was going on. Why was that exhibition of intense instruction right in the midst of everybody? It wasn't privately done. It was that particular devotee was having a spiritual problem. The particular spiritual problem was he was having fall-down problems as Prabhupada's personal servant. And he had affection for this devotee. So what the devotee needed was strong medicine. And Prabhupada didn't hesitate, the relationship was such that the devotee understood what he was getting, and getting a reprimand, and not just for the particular something that wasn't being attended to properly, but the bigger issue of his spiritual problem. That's just a Prabhupada's story to say, when the relationship is right, then dealing strongly, however you might describe it, is appropriate. However, it's when the relationship is right, and the relationship wasn't compromised. Prabhupada knew it, and therefore he did what he did, in the way that he did, in the circumstance that he did. And I also took it that he was teaching us. Although at the time I didn't understand what was going on. It was instructive. Sometimes strong speech or strong action is required. In a loving mood. So same, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes about this in Madhurya Kandambini. Nice book. Stages of Bhakti. 9 stages of Bhakti. So in the Anartha Nivritti section, because it's one of the stages of Bhakti, there's some nice teaching that says how, Tate Nukampam, the same topic we spoke about the other morning, Tate Nukampam Susamikshimano. Was that here? Yes. So, yeah. Our relationship with Krishna is everything. And if Krishna wants, Krishna can do with us whatever he wants. Because we know that he's loving. And whatever he does, it's not only what he wants, but it's to help us go further and further. Even if it's bitter. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, as an example, sometimes a father will give his son sweet milk. Sometimes a father will give him something bitter. And when the father gives something bitter, nimba juice is the word that's used in the verse, it's because it's good for the son. It's not punishment. It's good for the son because of the circumstance of health. So he gives, instead of something sweet, he gives something that's bitter. And that's how we, in this process of Anartha Nivritti, should see when we go through some tribulation. It's a different message that other verse that we spoke about. But it's a principle. It's a bhakti principle. Easier said than done, but that's how we should see some uncomfortable experience, or pain, or being mistreated, or, from yesterday, being misunderstood, yesterday evening's class, the negative emotion class. There's a lesson in our relationship with Krishna to be learned. It doesn't mean that was good. The instrument of harsh speech may not be appropriate for the relationship. But in our relationship with Krishna, shouldn't be disturbed. By circumstance. Nor should we blame, there's this common saying, don't blame the instrument of your karma. You've heard that one before, right? In bhakti, there's no karma. So where's the instrument of karma? It's not an instrument of karma. It's an instrument of Krishna's giving you nimba juice instead of sweet milk. As one progresses spiritually, focus goes more and more and more and more and more and more and more to its exclusive, your relationship with Krishna. And when you're not there yet, then it gets confusing sometimes. So back to the Damodar Leela. Tomorrow is Diwali, right? So this is a Diwali pastime. Yes? This is a Diwali pastime. Going back, Mother Yasoda understood. Why is he stealing? It must be that my assistants that provide butter don't do it properly. Today's Diwali, I'll send them home. They can be with their families on Diwali day. I'll make the butter. And then so forth and so on. So it's a Diwali pastime. So binding Krishna by Mother Yasoda. Nice topic for Diwali. And there's other things about Diwali, but it's Diwali. Before Krishna appeared, Ramchandra appeared, chronologically. And so celebrating Ramchandra's return to Ayodhya is Diwali. But then there's other things and other things and other things about Diwali. This is one of those nice things in Krishna's Leela. Krishna's way of celebrating Diwali. Having a loving exchange with Mother Yasoda. And have us spend the whole month singing about it. On Diwali, in relation to Diwali, or an event that occurred on Diwali. The loving exchanges. And making sure, from our sadhaka point of view, that we're mindful of the primary goal of life and the primary relationship that's most important, and strive to align ourselves with that in all the things that we do and the decisions we make and the relationships that we have and how we speak and how we respond to people speaking to us and behaving to us and how we should behave to them. And it's all, there's one thing. For advancement in bhakti, it's one thing. It's a wonderful pastime, obviously. So let's see if there's some discussion. Saturday morning, no work today, right? Okay. No school either. Yes. Over in the corner.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Maharaj. As a struggling sadhaka, I often have this trouble.
You have a struggle?
Yes?
Really? Go ahead.
Because you mentioned this point about that Krishna is not the order supplier. When I think about the verse Chaturvidha Bhajate Mam, when I think about Krishna says Yogakshima Vahamya.
Yes.
When I'm in trouble, when I'm praying to Lord for help, it's quite possible what I'm praying does not happen. How should I accept it? Because my mind gets convinced reading Shastra that it is correct, but the heart still has
it's
trouble.
easy. 1, 2, 3. You ready? Krishna may not give you what you want, he gives you what you need. And one of the things that we need is to be in the mood of service, not in the mood of he's my order supplier. It's a need. It's not necessarily what we want. The deeper sense, Krishna's being very kind by not supplying what you want. It's not that Krishna has to deprive us, or a parent has to deprive a child of something they want. When the child wants something sweet, the parent may give something bitter because that's what's needed. And they may say to their parent, that's not what I want. But it's getting what they need. So, it's a relationship. So what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita in those references, it's true. Yogakshema Vahamyaham. But it's not, he is obliged, according to our requisition slip, to supply it. It's simple. It's love. And he is the master and we're the servant. And he is interested in our welfare. And we don't know what our welfare is. We have a whole other thing by conditioned existence going on. That's how you process it. Here's another way to answer the same thing. A little bit higher. Canto 7, Chapter 10, Prahlad to Lord Nrsingadev. You want me to take a benediction? Please don't ask me to take a benediction. Why? Because there's only one thing. What's that one thing? You're the master, I'm the servant. There's no business other than you're the master and I'm the servant. If you want me to take a benediction, then I become a businessman. Manik is the word used in the Bhagavatam, 10th canto or 7th canto. It's not a business exchange. I do this, you do that. Thank you. There's only one thing. So please don't ask me. Because then the answer is no thank you. Lord Nrsingadev gave, not that he said, okay, you don't want anything, you get nothing. But what he gave was on the spiritual platform. He gave him something on the material platform too. I forget the number, 36,000 years, maybe that's Dhruva. You rule your father's kingdom. So, he gave. But it's not the nature of the relationship. So that's high, and we're not high. We're low. So that means we still have our expectations. So your question is how to handle it, how to process it when those expectations aren't met. And the answer is Krishna is being very kind. It's fundamental. Because his nature is he's very kind. And he's not an order supplier. I said this the other day, that Tattenu Kampam verse. This is me, not Bhagavatam. When you surrender to Krishna, please understand it's on his terms, not yours. Gopal, you have something? We give the microphone to Gopal. Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, when you said that Krishna supplies everything we need and not we want, why do we have so many financial problems?
Why do we have what?
Why do we have so many problems?
Why do we have so many problems? So many problems have to do with a non-alignment with what Krishna wants. There's actually no problem, but when the circumstances are not what I want, that's called the problem. When we have our wants aligned with what Krishna wants, when we're like Prahlad, then we don't have a problem. And then it's cute, easy to say. Then how do you live your life that way? Because we have wants, right? We have wants. I mean, we're human beings. We have bodies and minds, and we have coverings. And so there's wants. So now how do you handle those wants? Don't just, one thing is just pretend that they're not there. Become an impersonalist. That's not our program. How to connect those wants with serving Krishna. You like to sing. That's a want. Connect it with Krishna. when you connect your wants with Krishna's and the receiving end of what I want, then there's purification. And that purification in course of time, not instantly, can result in the want fades and in its place comes pleasing Krishna. That's what we do. Dovetail, it's in Bhakti Siddhanta's language. You dovetail the matter, the material conditioning with what Krishna wants.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So similar to that order supplier topic, so I just want to confirm my understanding. So it is okay to desire that Krishna will protect me,
Of course.
but we don't expect to be, he may or may not protect.
Well, that protection may be defined differently than your expectation of what protection is.
Yeah, it's in his terms, as you said.
Yeah. So it's good. That's not okay. It's good. It's one of the 6 items of surrender.
Rakshayati iti vishvaso.
Yeah. So it's good. But what does it look like? That's another thing.
Got it.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you. I have one question and there's one question online. So I'll go with my question first.
Okay.
So you said that we don't know what's good for us. So Krishna is good for us and surrendering to Krishna is good for us. But we don't know that. And why would we surrender unto Krishna when we don't know what's good for us?
Well, there's the instruction to do so. And if I can place my faith in the instruction to do so, I can go in that direction even though I don't even know it's good for me. And I don't even exactly know what surrender to Krishna means because there's different ideas of what that means. But if I try to go in that direction, then, I start to learn what it means. Surrender to Krishna is on his terms. And, in purification, etc., etc. So realization comes in principle, and then there's good teachers and as well as good teachings. So it's really helpful, if we don't know, to have a good teacher. And we see the good teacher, and they can model for us what it really is, what surrender to Krishna really is. And we look up to that person because they're guiding us, and they're, assuming they actually have qualification or quality that's trustworthy to be followed. So that's another factor that even we don't know, and we have persons that guide us and role models, and we follow them. Even I don't know, I trust them. And honestly, I think I know, but I know that I don't know. But I want to know. So, teachings and teachers. And live, align yourself accordingly. And then we can start to know what it really means. The online question?
This question is from Dhanum Jayulu. Question is, lamb should...
Uh-oh. Is that the battery? I'm going to change the battery.
Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Lamb should be offered to the feet of the Lord 4 rounds, 2 rounds, 3 rounds to the face, 7 times to the whole body. What is the significance?
Oh, it's a nice meditation, that's all. I mean, it's not a rule. It's not a... I've heard it before, but it's not like a rule. It's a nice meditation. And anything that helps you bring your mind to Krishna, accepting it is nice. Supposing there's somebody that does, and so supposing there's somebody that doesn't. Does the bell ring for the one that does, and the bell doesn't ring for the one that doesn't? It's not like that. It's a practice that may help one. And there may be 10 other practices that help the second person the first person isn't doing. Whatever helps bring the mind to Krishna, that's good. It's a meditation, an assist for meditation. Okay, looks like that's it. Oh, one more. Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So as we see, Krishna steals butter to distribute. So like we decide to do a little bit. How do we deal?
Is it okay to steal butter? No, what? I didn't get what you're asking. Give him this other microphone because something's wrong with this. And this is our last question. We're going to end here.
So simply, I'm asking like, is it okay to do little bit of bad?
Little bit of bad
For the better good.
for the better good. Well, then it's not bad. But to make the decision, should I or shouldn't I? What's the preamble for that one, or the prior event for that one? Some instruction. Supposing we don't have an instruction, roll the dice. Not a good idea. Seek instruction. You know, Mars Yudhisthira, tell a lie. It's bad. And he didn't tell a lie because he had a principle. I never tell a lie. You know. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in his commentary on Mahabharata, writes, some people say that because he lied, his chariot touched the ground, whereas before his chariot would not touch the ground. That's a misunderstanding. His chariot touched the ground because he hesitated to do what Krishna wanted. So his chariot touched the ground. Because the principle is what Krishna says. And there's other nice examples. So under authority, and and then that, what does that mean under authority? But when Krishna is giving, then it's clear. There's other examples. Ashwatthama is dead. And there's other examples. Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.